when it comes to insurance, like one agent blocks markets from other agents. So in the end, like if you send it out to 3 people and say, hey, go get it, it's kind of the first person to block the market. And it creates this scenario where it's actually worse for you than having one person and being like, or 2 people, but having 1 or 2 people and just saying, here's where I need to be, do everything you can to get there on price, but I want to make sure coverage is right too. And then that one person has the capacity to go out to everyone, and it's not kind of a mess on the market side. Because I think what you have to understand about the insurance thing is when you go to an insurance agent and say, hey, I've got a 144 unit in Cleveland, Ohio, it's got a little distressed or deferred maintenance, roof's a little bit older, you tell the story of the property and you hand that off to that insurance agent, they turn around, look at all the insurance companies that they have to go to, and they start pitching it just like you pitched it to them, right? So if I go to pitch to 5 different people and I can't kind of pin them against each other because someone's blocked that market over here, there's all these other agents involved, it actually makes it so much more messy than if you have 1 or 2 agents who's a great agent who knows real estate investors and has access to all the great markets and can go out there and essentially make companies fight for your business rather than you making agents fight for your business who are then making companies fight for your business.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. It is me, Yomo Weiss, once again your host on this journey. Together, I am pleased to have Jeremy Goodrich joining me on this ride for this call today, and I'm really excited for the conversation. Jeremy, what's going on?
Not much, Yona. I'm excited too. I just really love digging in. I love chatting about this stuff, and hopefully we'll do a little bit, if we talk insurance at all, to change the way people feel about insurance and kind of dig in from there. So I'm pumped.
Very cool. Yeah. So a little context, Jeremy is the owner of Shine Insurance. So his specialty is insurance, and he works specifically with commercial real estate people, but not only, but commercial real estate is definitely, I would say, his niche. And he's also the host of the REI Clarity podcast, so Real Estate Investing Clarity, which I was honored to be a guest on recently and made the top 20 list.
You did.
Of 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on that. Top 20 rising real estate podcast, Weiss Advice right here. You absolutely deserve it. I love that. So it was an honor to have you on our list.
That's awesome. So let me ask you, let's just start off right there. Like, how did you decide you're going to do, I mean, you're a podcaster. It's something you love, it's something you enjoy doing. And you've been interviewed on other podcasts like we're doing today. How did you decide I'm going to make a list of the top 20 podcasts, and then it just gets like spread all over the internet, like top 20 rising, real estate podcasts of 2020?
Well, I think in any scenario, well, I guess for one thing, I know how hard we all work on these podcasts, how much time we spend, how much we think about, how can we help our listeners? How can we make their life better? How can we push their journey forward? And then when I go to look at like top 10 lists, it's kind of always the same podcast. And these are great podcasts. There's nothing wrong with those top 10 lists at all. But I thought, well, there's a lot more deserving people out there. There are a lot of people who are growing great audiences by sharing super important information with them. Maybe I can make I was thinking about making a top 10 rising real estate podcasts. And then I was like, well, wait, if the intention is to share with as many people, as many podcasts as possible, why can't this be a top 20?
Right.
And so I did it that way. And just shared the podcasts I like to listen to, the podcasts I've been on, the people that I really look up to in this space. And I think it was a good list. I think there's a lot of heavy hitters on there, including yourself, obviously. And that worked out really, really well.
Yeah, it was fun. I got a lot of feedback from that. So that was a lot of fun. Did you use any other criteria in, creating that list, or was it just like, hey, let's find the ones that I really like and see where they're going?
It was mostly the ones that I really like, but I looked a little bit at like reviews and things that are on Apple Podcasts, making sure that they were actually rising podcasts.
Right.
But we're in communities in LinkedIn and Facebook and all those kinds of things, and we really see who people are talking about, who people are listening to, and I wanted to celebrate those folks.
Very cool. Very cool. And I think it's just a small gesture. I mean, not that small because it actually probably took you a long time to, to put that together. But it is. It's a gesture that giving back to the community that you're a part of, and making a difference. And definitely stood out. Definitely memorable for sure. So appreciate that. Let's
Yeah, and
Yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, no,
I was
no,
I
you.
was just gonna say that I was just going to say that, I think that that particular example of just something on social media, right? It's like I decided to do something. I took the time to put it together, spent the energy to put together and put it out there is really, I think, at the heart of at least my concept of how all of this stuff works, like how success in whether it's sales or success in real estate or success in entrepreneurship works. And that is that you look at who your ideal client is, who you want to work with the most, and
Hmm.
you say, what are the things that I can do to help that person?
Yeah.
How can I help their journey move forward? How can I make them a better person? And so that's a small example of just attempting to pull that off. Like,
Right.
what is it that you do to help people that are ultimately your ideal clients, but also a part of the community that you love and want to grow in? Help them be better. So,
Sure.
I think it's a basic concept around being a good entrepreneur. I don't know.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And I've done the same types of things all the time, and share that mindset with you. I mean, you said kind of jokingly before the call, I'm like the same version of you in a lot of ways. We do share a lot of qualities. And I think I forgot already from the time that we spoke on your podcast, but we have a lot of like really eerie, similarities. I
Yeah.
think like the same
Yeah.
birthday or something. I don't know.
I think San Diego State, although I didn't go
Right.
there, you went there and I wanted to go there. But I think we're both service providers to a community of people, right? That's the heart of the work that we do, right? And but what I love about what you do, and I think you do it so much better than I do, but is that you are a connector. You are someone who is constantly saying, how can I help people move forward in this space? And you do that so well. And so I just appreciate all those things that you're doing. And I love seeing that feedback from people to you when they're like, Yona, thank you so much. Thank you for that meetup. Thank you
Yeah.
for, that Facebook group. Thank you for that LinkedIn challenge. Whatever it is that you're doing to help people move their journey forward, you're helping to connect them. And I just love it.
Yeah. And it's another one of those things that I look to see, yes, how can I benefit everyone? How can I benefit this community? But at the end of the day, there is a certain element to, well, these are people that, potential clients of mine. Like, for example, I got a message today on LinkedIn from someone, and this literally happens on a daily basis. So I was like, hey, Yona, we've been connected for a while. I've seen your podcasts, I've watched your seminars on this virtual meetup and on this summit and whatever. And I always knew that I'd come to you when the time came for cost segregation. And to me, that's incredible because I've never spoken to the guy before, right?
Yeah.
Never had any idea that it was even something that was, because it's not like I'm, talking to everyone and pitching to every single person that I connect with, like, hey, talk to me about. But by putting yourself out there, just providing that content, providing that kind of safe space, but people know who you are by just you continually
Hmm.
talking about those things. And whether it's through podcasts, whether it's kind of indirectly just by you being who you are and seeing that this is what you do, you make that connection and that comes back to you all the time.
Yeah, there's a great author. His name is Jay Bear. He's a friend of mine, and he lives here in Bloomington, Indiana, where I live. But just all his books are so good, and they're so easy to understand, so simple. And one of the first ones I ever read by him was the book called Utility. And the basic concept was basically what we're saying here, that you find your ideal client, you do good stuff for them, your name is connected with that, and they're going to come to you and say that exact sentence that that person just said to you on LinkedIn today, which is, I always knew that whenever I needed the thing that it is that you do, I was going to come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because you gave and gave and gave and gave. And I just love that so much. And I think that's great.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's so easy to do today with social media. And so there's so many different opportunities. Let me kind of switch gears a little bit because I'd love to understand, who who the who is your ideal client? I'd love to hear
Yeah.
that.
My ideal client is someone, I always kind of have a 3-pillar approach. One is someone that I like. So when we engage, it's like, all right, we like each other. This is cool. Now that can mean a lot of different things. I like people from all different backgrounds, all different size portfolios, all different journeys when it comes to real estate, for sure. But someone that I like, someone who's willing to engage on the insurance side at least a little bit. Like, I don't need someone who loves insurance. I'm not trying to convert anyone into loving insurance, but someone who understands the value of it there. And then when it comes down to particular things, so I only do commercial real estate, and so it's really like people who have at least 10 units
Hmm.
of multifamily, office, retail, industrial,
Right.
and then I have clients that have thousands of units. But really, it's like that connection. Does the person care enough to connect? Or are they just trying to get some lowball offer from me and 3 other agents? That is not my ideal client.
And that's probably pretty common in your industry, with brokers out there and commercial. Do you get that a lot? Like, hey, would you put an offer or check out my insurance or whatever? And you kind of have a feeling the guy's just reaching out to like 3, 5 different people.
Yeah. Yeah, all the time. And I think what's interesting about that is that if you're doing that with builders because you're developing a property and you want to do a new build and you're bidding it out, like, I can kind of see how that works. It makes sense. Everybody has the same thing and you've got to figure out who can give you the best number. When it comes to insurance, like, one agent blocks markets from other agents. So in the end, like, if you send it out to 3 people and say, hey, go get it, it's kind of the first person to block the market. And it creates this scenario where it's actually worse for you than having one person and being like, or 2 people, but having 1 or 2 people and just saying, here's where I need to be, do everything you can to get there on price, but I want to make sure coverage is right too. And then that one person has the capacity to go out to everyone, and it's not kind of a mess on the market side. Because I think what you have to understand about the insurance thing is, when you go to an insurance agent and say, hey, I've got 144 unit in Cleveland, Ohio, it's got a little distressed or deferred maintenance, roof's a little bit older, you tell the story of the property and you hand that off to that insurance agent, they turn around, look at all the insurance companies that they have to go to, and they start pitching it just like you pitched it to them, right?
Hmm.
So if I go to pitch to 5 different people and I can't kind of pin them against each other because someone's blocked that market over here, there's all these other agents involved, it actually makes it so much more messy than if you have 1 or 2 agents who's a great agent who knows real estate investors and has access to all the great markets and can go out there and essentially make companies fight for your business rather than you
Hmm.
making agents fight for your business who are then making companies fight for your business, if
Gotcha.
that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely cutting a step out of there, but it's also opening it up for more potential benefit on your side. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't claim to understand real estate insurance at all. It's not something that I've
You're not alone.
dealt with. No, but I imagine the majority of first time investors are in the same boat, and so they don't know the difference. They know they got to shop insurance or they got to find an
Right.
insurance person or whatever. So there is an advantage for me, and I see how this could really play over to what you do as well. Is I see an advantage to finding people and educating people before it's even relevant to them so that they know what to expect, and then they won't automatically think of me and come back to me when the time comes. Obviously the end product, the end service is quite different, and so there's not that kind of middleman step or that kind of pricing out agent type thing going on there, but the same holds true in terms of the education, in terms of making sure they know what's best for them before they even need it.
I think that's a huge part of it. I think that there's so much, we talk about mindset in real estate investing and entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
all, in general, but I think there's so much mindset stuff that starts. Like, we hate insurance. We think they're trying to take advantage of us.
Right.
It's basically the same thing as taxes. And what's funny, Yona, you and I do very similar things, but in your scenario, the person who you're talking to is thinking, oh my gosh, I can lower my taxes by talking about personal property versus building and separating it all out and depreciating and doing that whole thing.
Right.
That inherently is a positive place to start from, right? And I think insurance sometimes feels a little bit the opposite, But I think that understanding it is so important. And that's why I have the YouTube channel and everything else.
Right.
It's like a little bit of understanding, a little bit of realization that without insurance, none of us would be real estate investors, right? Like, well, if you're listening and you're just one of the 1% wealthiest people out there, then yeah, you would be a real estate investor because you don't need insurance like the rest of us do. But insurance levels the playing field. It gives people without much money, without a whole lot of assets, they're able to take those risks and able to dig into it. And I think that when you start thinking about it that way and just shift your mindset a little bit and say,
Hmm.
okay, I understand the value here.
Right.
Now let's understand a little bit about it and make sure I'm doing it right.
Sure.
Well, now it starts to feel a lot better. And I think you're exactly right. If you can go out and watch a couple YouTube videos and get a basic sense, or have us do a portfolio review where you just throw us your current policies, and we do a simple review and create a video and say, here's what you got. If you want us
Right.
to help, let us know.
Yeah.
But ultimately you just took 10 minutes to understand your stuff better. I think that goes a long way.
Sure. Absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit here, because obviously you're the owner of Shine Insurance. So
Hmm.
how did you go from, obviously you're passionate about insurance, and you were before you started your own company, but how did you go into doing that? Decide, hey, I want to start my own business. I want to start my own thing.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't think anybody's passionate about it. I mean, I love insurance. I enjoy insurance, but I don't like passionate about insurance. I don't know. So
Okay.
I was an elementary school teacher for 13 years. So I taught third and fourth graders how to read, how to write, how to do math, how to play soccer, and a whole lot of other things. And I met my wife and now business partner, Mackenzie, during that time, and she is a third generation insurance agent. So
Gotcha.
she was working at her dad's agency. Her dad had bought that agency off of his dad, and she was just seeing kind of a lot of the negatives, a lot of the stereotypes that people have about insurance. She was the only woman in the room. It was sort of an old boys club a lot of ways at the companies and everywhere else. And so we got to talking, and we were like, what if we just started our own thing and in our own way try to change this industry, or at least change the way our clients experience this industry?
Mm,
And so we decided to drop everything. I didn't love insurance, but I knew that we could change the way people felt about it.
gotcha.
I knew that I was a good teacher,
Hmm.
and I knew that I could help people. And so that lined up pretty well. Now I have kind of learned to love insurance. I mean, I really think that it provides such a value for folks if we just
Right.
understand what it does. But really, I love teaching. And I loved teaching division to fourth graders who didn't want to learn it, you know and the process is fairly similar. It's like, what do you want to do? Well, you want to listen to that person. What is it that fourth grader is having trouble with? Why don't they want to learn division? What is it? A problem with the process? Is it a problem with their perspective about what division is? Is it a problem because they think, I'll never use division in my entire life? What's the problem? So you got to start by listening,
Hmm.
and then you've got your toolbox, right? And you're saying, okay, now that I know what the problem is, I can really help this person to do better at whatever it is. Now I can help them, now that I understand the problem. And so that's what I do. And that's what I did as a teacher, and I loved it. And I don't know that what I'm doing right now is all that different.
Sure. And I feel the same way. And I think that was another very common thread that we had, that, I was a teacher for so many years also. And that wasn't that I was passionate about cost segregation or anything like that, or
Right.
real estate, but it grew on me. And the funny thing is, when you combine some of those things, like, hey, I'm really good at teaching, I enjoy
Yeah.
it, and here happens to be one area that people really need education about because they're not getting it. And that was, for me, that was like a big epiphany for me when I first got into real estate and then found out about cost segregation and started working for this company. I immediately reached out to every single person that I knew that owned real estate. And I asked everyone, like, you heard this thing, cost segregation. And I had a pretty sizable network at that point, because I'd been involved in real estate for a couple of years already.
Yeah.
And it was the most incredible epiphany for me, because it was literally two ends of the spectrum. The answer that I got was either, yes, cost segregation is incredible, I've been using it for years on every property, I do it, or I have no idea what that is. There was no middle ground. And so I saw this huge, and the vast majority was on that side, that I had no idea what it was. So for me, I saw this huge opportunity of just, okay, well, now I can just go and teach people about this. And that's essentially what I've been doing the
Yeah.
past couple of years. So when you have that passion, whatever it is, and I think it's an important point that everyone who's listening to this can pull out, right? You have to get a job. You have to do something. So do you do what you love, or do you find something, or do you, do what you love and then find something that you can fit that thing that you love into
Yeah.
to make money and to make something work within a frame, potentially a totally different framework.
I think that's great. And, with insurance, it's exactly the same as you were saying with cost segregation. Like now everyone has to have it. So everyone kind of knows what it is, but you
Hmm.
have people who actually pay attention and get, the thing that they want and make sure they have the actual peace of mind that they need. And then you have about 80% of real estate investors who just have crap policies that they know nothing about, that they're going to really get burned in a claim scenario because they didn't want to, they were on the other side of that scenario you were talking about. They just did, like, I don't know, I don't get it, it's strange to me, I feel like someone's trying to take advantage of me, I'll just take the cheapest price and I don't care.
Right.
And I think those are the people I'm really trying to help, are those 80% of people who have terrible policies and really need to take a look at them and get them fixed.
Absolutely. So let's, just for the sake of it, let's jump right into the final four. Right.
Love
This
it.
is the last segment of our show, and this is always a good one. We always get good stuff out of this. So, first question for you: what's the worst job that you ever had?
So I'm going to break the answer to this question into two. One is the worst job for the people I was doing that job for, and the other was the worst job for myself. So I would say the worst job for the people I was doing the job for was waiting tables. So I loved waiting tables. I had a great time, but I don't have
Hmm.
a information trap mind. And so it just didn't go very well because I was trying to do the whole thing where you don't write anything down and you listen to the whole thing, and everybody at the 8 top has a different, topping on their salad or whatever. And I just failed a lot as a server. And so I think the experience of the people on the other side was really bad. As far as my worst job, it was definitely selling clothes in the mall at Chess King. I only did it for like 2 days, but it's funny because insurance is inherently commission based now, and like I'm comfortable with it now. But then I was just like, what? Like I have to sell stuff to make money, or I don't make any money at all. Like I hated it. I only lasted for a couple of days.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's difficult. I imagine you were quite young when you took that on.
Yeah.
And most jobs that we realize we're not cut out for don't last very long, hopefully. But that's a tough thing for a kid or a young person to deal with. Like, what do
Yeah,
you
it's like
working?
you're in that case, you're trying to convince someone of something that they kind of don't necessarily need. And I've never been able to be that person. Like I don't get that. And there was no capacity to teach or help or anything. I liked working at Chick-fil-A in the mall, which was right on the other side of the mall, where I could eat as much as I wanted on my 15-minute breaks. Totally enjoyed that job a lot better.
That's cool. That's good. It's a perk of the business. Second question is, what's a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
So, like I've been saying in this conversation, I'm a teacher. And one of the problems with being a teacher is sometimes you don't turn the corner and make that ask. Like, really kind of say, hey, I know that I can help you. Will you let me help you? And the book, Sell the Feeling by like Larry Pinchy or something, Sell the Feeling. It's really well written because it's in the story of a person who was in that kind of same spot.
Mm.
And this other person taught him how to see it differently and how to realize that people really do need the thing you're offering, and if
Mhm.
you don't offer, then you'll never have the opportunity to give them that. And I think it really just helped me to have the permission structure to say, Jeremy, it's okay to ask because people do need this thing that you're offering.
That's awesome. Sell the feeling. So, I mean, the concept I definitely get, and I appreciate that because it's always good to read something. I always like to add books to the list that I think I understand, and it's just just go through it
Yeah.
again. Occasionally, I'll get someone to have a book on list, and they'll kind of do a brief description like you did of what the book's about,
Yeah.
And I would just be like, no, I have no interest in that whatsoever.
This one's a really easy read. It's like, it's just a story. It's almost like fiction, but it's right there where you need to be, especially if you're someone who knows that you have some value, knows that you have something to bring to people, know that your like heart is in the right place, but struggle to take that step to like ask. I think
Mhm.
that's the perfect place,
Sure.
or the
No, it sounds
perfect.
good. It sounds like a great sales book. So another question for you is, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
So this is sort of in the realm that we're already in. I would love to learn to live stream and live stream on like YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn at the same time, successfully have people listening and make it all work. I'm pretty decent at recording videos and putting everything together and all that kind of stuff, but I have not learned how to live stream yet, and I'm pretty excited to start. It's a gut thing. Like you got to have the guts to hit live, go live, and I know you do that, but I've struggled with that.
It's yeah, it is a kind of a guts thing. I don't know. Once you do it, you enjoy it. Every time
Yeah.
I go live, I feel like, what am I gonna talk about now? What if no one's listening? And what if, and you're kind of thinking all those things, and then at the end, I'm like, why did I stop so soon? Like I could
I
I
had
could have
so much
kept
more to
going.
say.
Could have kept
Yeah.
going for
I have never hit the go live button. So that's a skill that I want to learn.
okay. I'm sure there's ways to learn that, get that going well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll work. The great thing is there are these apps and kind of third party tools that streamline it to make it much easier, kind of consolidate the comments into one thing over there so you see where they're coming from.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to connect on that.
Yeah, definitely. Fourth and final question, Jeremy, is what does success mean to you?
So I'll give you the first thing that comes to my mind, which I don't know if this feels success means to me positive feedback. I'll just say it because it feels a little bit shallow almost, but it's like, so I have a YouTube channel. It has like, 13,000 subscribers, somewhere in that space. It's certainly had some success. And I just love when the comments are like, this made it so simple for me. I had a question. I watched your video. Now I understand. I'm moving on with my life. And like, to me, that's success.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I did the thing I went out there to do.
Sure.
So positive feedback, and there's a lot of different ways to get that, but I think that's what success feels like to me.
Well, I understand that, and I relate to that a lot because, as a teacher, like that's what you love. That's what really makes you thrive when you see that a student appreciates it, right? They get it. Like they came away, you don't get that a lot, unfortunately. I mean, you see it and you know it, but when you get that and, like the teacher that, that gets the proverbial apple, right? That
Uh-huh.
that kind of makes your day because it's like, oh wow, they get it, that I've made the difference.
That's true. It's probably just another teacher thing. The more I think about life, the more I experience life, the more I realize so much of it comes back to that 13 years of spending that time in the classroom. Because you're right. Like if you don't get that positive feedback there, you just feel like you failed, or you feel like you didn't take them to the next level. And you get pretty quick positive feedback a lot in a classroom because you've got 25 kids and there's a lot of feedback to be had, both negative and positive.
Sure.
So your feedback loop is pretty short there. So maybe that's a reason why I feel that way.
It could be. I mean, that was just my immediate, connection that I made on that. So, because I relate to that a lot, also. I mean, it's definitely true. So that's great. So, Jeremy, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you?
So shineinsurance.com is a great place. We created a quiz. Like I said, 80% of real estate investors have terrible policies. That is totally true. I review them all the time. We created a little 5-question quiz to see if your policy sucks. And that's it, shineinsurance.com/REI. So you can check it out there. But the Shine Insurance YouTube channel are all over social media as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I would definitely put those in the show notes, and everyone should for sure check them out. Check out Jeremy and the REI Clarity podcast. So REI Clarity, that's a great podcast. Highly recommend it. If I was doing a top 20, I would put that in there, but he was too humble to put his own podcast in the list. So
Thanks, Yana. I
definitely in
appreciate
there.
that.
And it's been a pleasure catching up and speaking, and I appreciate you joining me.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. And to all our listeners, thanks for listening. Once again, remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.